It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full 40. Becky's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big guy!
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest
From outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello everybody, welcome along to For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the VAFA. We are officially a third of the way through the home and away season. Round 6 done, dusted and in the books. And I look forward to unpacking it all with you here today. Matthew Donald is my name. I'll be your host throughout the course of this episode. Jason Bennett is not with us today. We've got in his place our expert commentator for Match of the Day throughout the course of the season. 2-time premiership coach of Elsternwick, 3-time coach of the year, Hugo Higginbotham. Hugo, welcome to you.
Hello, Matty. Thanks for having me. Great to be here, to come in off the bench, but we've had some excellent football over the weekend. The season's been great, so look forward to unpacking it with you today.
No, it's going to be great. And of course, as always, we've got Brayden May on the panel as well. Brayden, welcome back.
Thank you, Matty. It's great to be joined by Hugo for a bit of a different insight to the world of VAFA footy with the coaching element. I'm really excited by it. And he's probably got knowledge that we don't. I'm really excited to see how this plans out because I can't keep up with this season. Every division, men's, women's, the results are just amazing at the moment. And it's too hard to tip, as I'm sure you know all about.
Well, I do. You know, you're absolutely right about it. The script is flipping by the week. And we will start, as we do every week, with Premier Men's. And the big story to come out of the weekend was Caulfield Grammarians, who picked up a big win on the road against Uni Blacks. And the star player on the day was the skipper, JACK ELLWOOD, who did just about everything on the day. 34 disposals, 4 goals, 13 score involvements, 18 marks. He was outstanding, and he joins us now. Jack, welcome.
Hey guys, how you going?
Yeah, well, thank you. Congratulations on the win. It's been a tricky start to the season for you guys, but that was a dominant performance from your boys on Saturday.
It was nice to get our game rolling. I think sort of during the week we sort of put some pressure on ourselves to get back into contested possession and tackles, which Stats has really put a massive premium on us for the whole year. And I think we sort of took that to Uni Blacks on the day, as they've been the number one contested side for the last sort of 3 or 4 years. So, it was nice to get our game going on a nice big oval. Started with our half backs and being able to slice them up through the middle. It was good fun. It's
been a tricky start to the season, as we sort of said. Always obviously great to get a win on the board. How have you sort of viewed the jump up from Premier B to Premier A so far this year?
There definitely is a jump. I think, we sort of got a taste of it the end of last year playing the likes of Ivanhoe and Trinity, who obviously came up with us this year. And, they probably were bona fide VAFA A-grade sides. So it was nice to get a bit of a taste at the end of last year and a couple of years ago when we were up. But as you said, it is a jump. And I think we are sort of well suited to it. It'll just take a bit of time given that we're a young squad. It's nice to sort of clock a few wins early.
So, Jack, it was a great win on the weekend, but at halftime, only up by 10 points. You want to break down that third quarter for me? Because you kicked 6 goals, 2, and probably put the match out of reach for the Blacks.
Yeah, well, funny you say that. Our second half sort of prior to the past sort of couple of weeks has been our downfall, and I think we've sort of put a massive focus point on that to sort of come out of halftime and, take it to the opposition. And I think, as I said, our one wood is our contested possession and tackling, and then our ability to sort of spread and create off half-back in that third term was pretty impressive stuff.
Jack, well, I want to touch on your own performance. Have you played at that level before? I know you probably don't want to talk the numbers yourself. Maybe you want to pump up Noah Sutherland. He had 41 touches, I believe. What was it that allowed it all to click for yourself?
As you said, blokes like Sudsy and Hamish McInerney off the half back were nice enough to give me a bit of the footy. I think the ground sort of might have played a part. Playing on that bigger deck, we're able to get a few more uncontested marks and sort of use that to our advantage.
And one of your other teammates, that Jack, was Lachie Brewer. Now, the big story coming out of the week, the North Melbourne Category B rookie. He was allowed to play for you guys at the weekend. What did he bring to the mix, both in an on and off field sense for you?
Yeah, no, he's been great for us. He rolled into Thursday night training last week and even came upstairs and had dinner and did all the fines and stuff with us. So he's been a great addition to our group. Really sort of taking it on and really enjoying the company by the looks of it of our group. But yeah, obviously you sort of makes you puff your chest out a bit more when you've got an AFL listed player sort of going down at fullback or halfback. And he played a great role for us. I think first game since year 10. Couldn't speak highly enough of him on and off the field. He's a great guy.
So, Jack, massive game this weekend against Old Trinity. So you know those guys pretty well. But I'm sure Slats is going to talk about it at training and work on it. But what do you guys have to do to bring what was the best part of your game on the weekend that got you the victory through to next week to try and develop a bit of consistency?
I think the main thing is the stuff between the ears. I think given that we're such a young group, I think we sort of struggled having that confidence to play in A grade. So I think, on the weekend we did have that confidence and we're able to, take the game on a bit more. So I think if we're able to do that this weekend and take it to Trinity, who had the wood over us at the end of last year, unfortunately, I think we'll be good to go.
Jack, does it help now just having that performance that you can point to where there's evidence that what you're doing works and can get results? Do you think that gives confidence to the playing group that we know when we play our game the right way that it does work for us? Does that sort of give you confidence coming into the next few weeks and the rest of the season that what you do can and does stack up against the better teams in the competition?
For sure. And yeah, as I said, given that we're such a young group, those wins do matter a lot for the mental side of the game, knowing that we can sort of take to those teams. Blacks only beat the top of the table Brighton a couple of weeks ago. So we know that we're sort of thereabouts, but it's just sort of bringing that throughout the entirety of the 120 minutes and having that confidence and playing with that confidence. But I think we can take it into the rest of the year for sure.
You touched on being such a young group. I believe a lot of the 19s, a few of them have come through the senior side this year. Can you give us a bit of an insight to what they've added? That experience must be great for them to go back to the 19s and the connection between the senior and the 19 group.
Yeah, of course. We, been riddled with injuries sort of early in the year, but with that comes great opportunity for those younger guys. We've got the likes of Noah Will, who's been very classy for us on the wing the last few weeks and hasn't looked out of touch at all. We had debutant Ollie Wilson on the weekend, who's been a part of Saints VFL. Very lucky to have him. Hopefully we can keep him for a bit longer. But sort of had a couple other guys in and out of the side as well, and I'm sure that they've really embraced that opportunity, and I'm sure it's really going to help them in the long run for their development as well.
It feels like a really tight-knit group, Jack, across the divisions. Sometimes they can be a bit of a chasm with some levels, but it doesn't feel like that's the case. Overall, it's a really young group, and whether it's the Premier or the under-19 levels, it seems like the club as a whole really gels together quite nicely and is forming a really strong bond.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. We've sort of come through over the last sort of 2 or 3 years as a group. So whether it's seniors, reserves, and under 19s, everyone sort of knows each other, played with each other. I think that's the benefit of the sort of mass exodus we had a couple of years ago, and even just through injuries and stuff we've had. But yeah, the good stuff does come with the bad, that's for sure.
Well, Jack, we've got you on here. We've got to talk about your own personal performance because we've got the numbers here. So it was 34 touches, 18 marks, 13 score involvements and 4 goals. What aspect of that, as a coach, I'd be probably most pleased with your 13 score involvements because that means you're sharing around. It's not all about you. But which one's the most pleasing for yourself personally?
Probably the score involvements, I reckon. I love sort of getting my teammates involved. Being the captain as well, I like sort of leading from the front and sort of, getting everyone involved, as I said. So being able to sort of link up with the forwards and be a part of the chains and just being able to celebrate with that and sort of whether I'm on the end of them or someone else is, it's a really good feeling.
Now, Jack, you've said all the right things so far. There's no judgment here, but I've got to let you know that your highlights package is on the VAFA socials. Now, be honest, have you watched it back yet?
Yeah, it's been sent to me a couple of times and sort of thrown out a few group chats, so I think it's sort of hard to miss.
No, well, I mean, if ever there was a performance worthy of one watching it back themselves, that was an outstanding game, as Hugo said. 34 touches, 4 goals, doing it yourself, but 13 score involvements. You're bringing your teammates into the game as well. It must be quite satisfying that you can sort of replicate those numbers at such a high level.
Yeah, I mean, it's just bit of an outlier of a performance at the moment. So hopefully I can put together a few more games like that in the future.
So, Jack, obviously, I'd class that as a captain's game. It's got all aspects to it. But how are you going with the captaincy? Because obviously it's been a tougher start to the year, and obviously the younger guys look to you as more of their generation rather than going to Slutsy. So has it been a bit tough, or are you still enjoying it?
No, I love the role. It's a privilege enough to been given the opportunity through Sats and the coaching staff, and obviously voted in by my teammates. I'm sort of following suit from Joe McClelland, and before that, Will Edwards, who I was fortunate enough to sort of play underneath, and sort of just grabbing parts of their leadership. And through constant feedback with Sats and the coaching staff, people involved with the club, I've sort of been able to develop that my leadership. So it is a sort of tough role that I've never really been exposed to at this level before. But I'm very privileged and honoured to be given the opportunity, and hopefully I can be captain for years to come.
Well, Jack, you've led by the front at the weekend, or led from the front. An outstanding performance, outstanding day for you and your team. Congratulations on the result, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys.
Great to catch up with Jack Elwood of Caulfield Grammarians. What a tremendous result it was for him and his team at the weekend. We turn our attention now to the rest of Premier Men's action over the course of the weekend, and we'll start at Princes Park. What an absolute nail-biter this was. A one-point thriller between University Blues and Holt Haileybury. In that match, the Blues were in front for pretty much the entire day. They led from go to woe. They had a 15-point lead at quarter time. They burst out of the blocks. The home team, Holt Haileybury, the Bloods, could have been in front, but they 2-7 in that opening term, and they'd come back to haunt them as the afternoon progressed. A bit of a shootout then ensued in the third term. The Blues, they kicked 7-3 to 5-2, so 12-goal third term. Not quite Giants level, but still pretty prolific. It was a thoroughly entertaining stanza of footy, and it meant that the Blues turned for home at three-quarter time with a 22-point advantage. But the Bloods, they were not to be denied. Coney Gooden-Wardner, he came back. He kicked a terrific set-shot goal to kickstart proceedings in the final term. Ned Conway then got a goal a few minutes later, cut the margin back to 11 points all of a sudden, and momentum was well and truly with the Bloods. James Stewart and Grimley were outstanding again up forward for the Blues. He steadied the ship for them. But then Charlie Harrop got another goal, brought it back to 10 points with time on in the final term. They got another goal, did the Bloods. They brought it back to within a kick at the 22-minute mark of the final term. They really were coming home with a wet sail. Old Haileybury then got in front. Lucas Hornblower got onto a goal on the line, put it through, gave the Bloods the lead. But then the Blues came back again. Jack O'Sullivan responded, got them back ahead by 5 points, and then they kicked another point after that to make it a 6-point game in the end. And it was touched off the boot was the shot. So it was another one, so that made the margin 7 points. Old Haileybury got another goal very late. Charlie Harrop again, bring the margin back to 1 point. It was all going on in that last term, but in the end, University Blues holding on, a 1 point win, 15-13, 103 to 15-12, 102. Very rare that you get both sides kicking over 100 points. Even rarer is still that it becomes a 1 point game, but it was a game that had just about everything at Princes Park. Gents, the two coaches, I'm sure, Hugo, they had plenty to say.
Yes, Matt Smith, you spoke about Haileybury's young list, and they showed a lot of fight, and that's what they had to do to stay in all the day. Excellent job of manufacturing a spare behind the ball, which you have to do with the big plays that the Blues have down there. And he also spoke about the momentum swings throughout the game, and it was nice to get their nose in front at the right time. So they're going to go back to their fundamentals this week, and they'll come back bigger and better next week. But a great victory there.
And for Old Haileybury, Brayden?
Guy Martin pointed out some positives and negatives. He said they shot themselves in the foot with some bad mistakes throughout the game. They thought they let it slip with those bad moments that led to, quote, easy goals for the Uni Blues, which you can't give away against the high-quality forwards. But he did speak highly of Jack Bell. He rucked solo for the first time most of the year, did it most of the game, was his best game, and Charlie Harrop, who you mentioned as well, had his best performance of the year.
And then the next match we'll turn to, where's that TH King Oval, St Kevin's and Old Scotch. And this one was looking like it was all over at quarter time. St Kevin's burst out of the blocks. They had a tremendous opening term, and at quarter time they led by 42 points, an 8-1 opening term from St Kevin's. Burst out of the blocks, but the Cardinals were not to be denied. They would work their way back into the game as the afternoon progressed, and after quarter time it's 15-9 in favour of the Cardinals, so they were very dominant in the end. And another match where both teams ended up kicking over 100 points. Another very close margin in the end. Ultimately, St Kevin's were able to hold on. They secured a 10-point victory in the end. 17-15, 117 to 16, 11, 107. They were up by 39 points at three-quarter time as well, St Kevin's. So the Cardinals kicking 6-1 in the final term. They really pushed St Kevin's right to the wire, but ultimately it was the first quarter that cost them in the end. Goals galore in this match, and it's a bit of a spoiler for Tunwatch. There were plenty in this match. Jack Bank kicked 5 goals for St Kevin's. Jacob Kazitsky booted 4, and Angus Jones kicked 5, who was the hero in the final series last year for the Cardinals. He kicked 5, and Will Clark, who's been outstanding up forward all season for the Cardinals, he kicked another 4. So 18 goals between those 4 forwards. A proper shootout at TH King, Hugo.
Yes, and Anthony Lynch, he spoke very, very in pleasing tones about the first quarter. He's also very happy to get his 4th win in a row, which in the competition, which is very even, which we're seeing it week to week, made him happy. The next 3 quarters weren't so pleasing, he said, if he was honest. He gave credit to Scotch. They changed their style, took the game pretty aggressively, and they weren't able to manage the momentum. But in the end, the game got way too close for comfort. And basically, allowing the scoreboard to get that close, he shows there's still some growth needed in the group. So they'll be working on that during the week.
They'll be pleased to bank another win, and as you say, 4 in a row. Bit of chalk and cheese for Mark Nat's men between the first term and the last 3 quarters. Brayden, what did he make of it?
Yeah, for sure, especially when you touch on the result the week previous in the grand final rematch, where they'll probably suffered another honourable loss. So he's really happy with the fight and spirit they displayed, but just a poor start, too many errors. He wasn't too happy. Conceding 100 points is a bit of an issue, but on that, there's been a lot of big shootouts just across the competition this year so far, so I don't think you can read too much into it. When you've got that scoring power, and it's just how quickly you probably concede those goals. He had special mentions for Will Townsend, young Ben Ferguson and Angus Jones up forward.
And turning our attention now to Fortress Brighton, and tell you what, this was a match that was highly anticipated coming into the weekend. The reigning premiers Old Brighton hosting the newly promoted Old Trinity, who have captured our imaginations to start the season. They've been on a tremendous run so far, but it was Old Brighton who flexed their muscle and proved that they're still the team to beat in 2026. There was a good start though from the Tees. They kicked 2 of the first 3 goals, got out to an early lead, but then Old Brighton really clicked into gear after that. They had an 11-minute burst where they kicked 6 goals. I bet they were kicking with the breeze at that stage of the match. They took a 30-point lead at quarter time, and from there the lead only grew. Old Trinity did kick 4 goals in the second term, so they did actually put a bit of respectability on the scoreboard in the end. But again, Old Brighton just were too good when the whips were cracking throughout the course of the afternoon. It was a big win in the end, boosting their percentage considerably. They extended their lead at every break. They led 84 to 46 at halftime. They had a 40-point advantage at three-quarter time and really put the foot down again in the final term. 22-14, 146 to 10, 70, a 76-point win. Luke Travers was outstanding up forward. He kicked 5. Ryan Agg and Jonah Campili, they each kicked 4 for the Tunners, so they were quite happy to share the goals around. Geordie Seeger also got 3 for the Tunners, so plenty of goals to go around. Ed Chard for the Tees, he kicked 3, and another 3 players kicked 2 goals each. But another big win, Hugo, for the Tunners, and they maintain top spot with even more percentage.
Yes, huge win. One of the hardest trips in the VAFA there as well. But Marcel Bruin, he's very happy with the win, and against one of the form teams in Premier, which Trinity are. So he was very happy with a few players, especially with Jamie Hope, Travers, Ryan Agg, as he spoke about. He thought the group's ability to pressure the initial disposal was particularly good, although it took a while to get spread. And he said that the scoreline didn't reflect how the game felt. And you play games like that sometimes. He said it felt a lot closer because of Trinity's good ball work. So, but they're going well, Brighton.
And for Donald McDonald, it's a bit of a reality check after what's been a pretty good start to the season from them, Brayden.
Yeah, it just shows the benchmark that Old Brighton. No, he just said they probably struggled to walk away and said they didn't win an area of the ground. It was on and off the field. It was not a good day, but the players will go away and reflect on that and they'll learn from that. He said the pretty obvious thing that is that all teams on their day have the capacity to win. Caulfield are coming off a big win. They beat them in round 8. So I'm sure the field will be confident heading into that game this weekend.
And then the final match of round 6, Premier Men's, took place at Turak Park. Hugo and I were at this game. Old Zavarians against St Bernards. And it was Old Zavarians who had a very good start to the game. They jumped out of the blocks early. They kicked the first couple of goals. St Bernards stuck with them for a bit. in that first quarter. But then the second term was when the game started to break open. But it was 5-2 at that stage. It was a 29-point lead for the Zavs at halftime, and the lead only swelled from there. They kicked 13 goals to 5 after halftime and ended up cruising to a pretty comfortable 74-point win in the end, 22-15, 147 to 10-13, 73. Old Zavs maintaining a spot inside the top two. They too put on a pretty handy percentage booster. They started the day 5% behind Old Brighton, but level on wins with them. The margin stayed about the same, given Old Brighton won by a similar scoreline. The headline actor of this match was Charlie McIsaac, who booted 8 goals. So keep an eye out for him. Doubtless he'll feature in CENCH-WATCH. He only had 2 goals to his name at time on in the third term. It was a remarkable performance from him. Hugo, you were at that game. He was terrific. The Zavs were terrific.
Yeah, they were. They were 4-quarter performers, and just shows how clinical they can be. But Charlie McIsaac, a lot of his goals got from his work rate and how hard he works. He gets up the ground, back to the goal square, and with their amazing intercept marking game, he seemed to find the right spot and very, very fast transitions, Zavs. So they're looking very good. Dan Donati, he just spoke another solid performance from his players, and he did acknowledge how notoriously hard burners are to play. And Matty, we saw that. Their physical pressure around the contest is second to none nearly. Also, he was very, very complimentary of Sam Fisher returning for some minutes, which was big, Matty. We saw that. Very influential he was. And of course, he had to mention Charlie McIsaac. And he said he deserved those goals. And I think he did. He worked really hard. And he worked on that kicking, Matty, and he had the radar in late, which we noticed in the game.
Yes, you were the expert that you are, Hugo. That's why we hire you. You were all over that, and he kicked some beautiful set shots from the 50-metre arc. You mentioned Sam Fisher as well. This is the scary thing about Old Zavs. He's just come back and looked like he barely missed a beat, even on managed minutes. And Marcus Stavro, who joined us in the broadcast at halftime, he's only a couple of weeks away from as well. So this midfield is going to get even better in the coming weeks.
Well, I was thinking about this. He's probably the most credentialed water boy we've ever seen. 2-time Woodrow medalist running the water for the club on the weekend, but he was moving very well. So that's very positive. They've been very measured with their management of Fisher. He could have come back a lot earlier. I think they're playing the long game, as they're doing with Marcus Stavro as well. So there's a bit of a fire in the belly down there at Toorak Park, which is going to maybe surface later in the year, Matthew.
Every chance. I mean, they were outstanding last year, and they're looking to threaten again for the premiership this year. For Steve Alessio's Snow Dogs, Brayden, it was a tough day at the office. What did he make of it?
He just touched on the consistency that we've seen regularly in this sort of segment. It's come back to plague him again, beaten for 2 of the 4 quarters, compounded by Matt Foley's early exit from the game. He's obviously a high-quality player. The challenge now is whether they can improve. They've got a great opportunity in the next month to do that, but it looks like they're in a bit of a relegation dogfight at the moment. I want to pose a question to you two, gentlemen. What makes Old Zavs so good? You just touched on the star players, but what is it about their system that you enjoy watching that makes them so powerful?
They don't look for the hardest option. They look for the easiest option every time. So they get a lot of multiple options as well. So they work really hard. They don't stagnate in the space, but they take the easy option, which is the easiest kick, and then they retain possession. And another thing is, there's 2 more factors to that. Intercepting mark work is very, very good off half back. But when they get that, the transition at speed is it's dangerous for other teams. So they look like the complete package, but they're on the same wavelength across the ground, and it doesn't seem like they don't care who's in the position. They know someone will be there. They kick to the jumper and they move it with speed. So good to watch.
That's sort of how I see it as well, discipline and instinct. So that you talk about system, they're sort of well set up. They know exactly where they need to be. And when they get the ball, which they did a lot through intercept marking, they know exactly where to then move the ball next. They know where to give the hand pass. They know where to give the kick. They know exactly what they're doing. It's so well drilled into their psyche that this is what we do every single time. And they've got it down to a fine art at this point. So I think that's what they do so well, that they know what they're doing and they stick to it consistently.
I think they're going to be the most watchable team in the back half of the season. I think all the external pressure is there of this football side to deliver a premiership and that drought. And as you touched on, if they're the complete package and they're only going to get better, it's going to be scary, but it's very exciting for us to watch because we don't have to plan to coach against them.
And Hugo doesn't have to plan to coach against them either. It's better at being on this side of the glass, Hugo, isn't it?
Yes, it's very tough out there, but it is a very even competition. We saw it on the weekend. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day. Don't forget, Savs got beaten pretty convincingly a few weeks ago against Trinity. So it's a great competition.
As we turn our attention now to the ladder, the top two, as it was last week, Old Brighton still on top ahead of Old Grammarians, both now holding a 5-1 record percentage, the only thing separating them, 164.9 to 159.8 in favour of the Tunners. So they've both gone up by about 5% over the course, or about 10% rather, over the course of the weekend off the back of big wins. University Blues, they just hold on with that win. They now move up to third spot. There are 3 teams on 4 wins and 2 defeats. They're just ahead of St Kevin's and Old Trinity, who slip outside the top 4 as a result of their defeat. Then there's a 2-game gap, so we're seeing a bit of a chasm develop already after round 6. And at this stage, it is Old Haileybury, University Blacks and Caulfield Grammarians who climb out of the relegation zone off the back of their big win at the weekend. They're all holding on to a 2-4 record. And then the 2 teams that are rounding out the relegation places, Old Scotch and St Bernard's, both with 1 win to their name after the opening 6 rounds, gentlemen.
Yeah, you're looking at that gap that you spoke about, Matty, and you don't want to be on the bottom end of that because it's so much pressure. We've got some great games this weekend with a lot of ramifications. I mean, the Uni Blacks St Kevin's game. Uni Blacks don't want to drop this one because that just puts them further away from getting into that top half. St Kevin's want to maintain chance for the top 2. And then you've got St Bernard's and Haileybury. Going to St Bernard's, one of the toughest trips in the VAFA as well. St Bernard's play really well out there. Their contest works good. Haileybury really want to get a victory over there just to keep in touch with that top group because the chasm's going to widen.
Yeah, Brayden, it feels like the 8-point games are starting now.
Yeah, it's the cliche that we talk about, but they are really starting. But we see Old Scotch, they've only won 1 game, but with those performances the last couple of weeks, it's not far away from clicking and turning over. And I think they'll start winning games against sides. We'll see them against higher up the ladder and think, they'll probably get beaten. But I think Mark Nat, he's just such a good coach and he'll get the best out of this group. And don't be surprised if they make a run like they did last year towards the top 4.
We've called a few Scotch games and I've looked over their results. They're not playing 4 quarters at the moment. We saw that on the weekend. The damage was done in that game in the first quarter. I mean, they had to come home with a wet sail, but that scoreboard pressure against Brighton, they had 1 bad quarter. Felix Flockhart tore them apart, and that cost them the game in the end. So they need to get 4-quarter performances in, and it might be something to do with the youth of the side or players coming in and out, but they're just lacking that bit of consistency at the moment.
That's Premier Men's for round 6, done and dusted and reviewed in the books. Premier B review coming up next on For the Love of the Game.
The VAFA Big V Luncheon returns in 2026 on June 5 at the RACV City Club. A celebration of community, tradition and the very best of Big V representative football. Join the 2026 squads, past greats and supporters as we honour the game, including the induction of 3 Big V champions, recognised for their outstanding contribution to the mighty Big V. And don't miss the proud moment for the future as the 2026 Senior Big V men's and women's teams are officially presented with their Guernseys. It's history, pride and passion all in one room. Tickets available now at vafa.com.au.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the VAFA. Matthew Donald with Hugo Higginbotham and Brayden May this week. And gents, it's now time to turn attention to Prem B. And I feel obligated to share the responsibility around because I've put an absolutely disgraceful performance with Prem B tipping so far this year. So I'm putting myself in the sin bin for the week. So we're going to share around the responsibilities here of sharing the news with Prem B. But we will start at Como Park. And Old Geelong pulled off the upset of the round here. They defeated Old Carey by 50 points. And what makes it the upset of the round here is that heading into the day, Old Geelong were last on the ladder. Old Carey was sitting in second. So we know about the evenness of the competition, but it's still second v last on the ladder. Didn't feel like that on the day. Old Geelong led for practically the entire match in the end. They added vital percentage in the last term as well. It was a 7-goal final quarter they had in the end and eventually getting the win. As I said, 50 points, 20 goals, 7, 127. Good kicking is good footy to 11, 11, 77. The result was so good, the win was so good for Old Geelong that they then moved out of the relegation zone and then remarkably within a game of the top 4. It's actually incredible. The Panthers have dropped to 5th on the ladder as a result of their defeat. Ton watch, which we'll get to at the back end of the episode. I'll tell you what, there's going to be a couple of Old Geelong players that will feature in this one. Tom Gorell, he's the league's leading goal scorer. He kicked 7 at the weekend to take his tally for 24 for the season. Michael Nichols, not to be outdone. He kicked 6 for the match, including 5 in the final term. A dominant dynamic duo up forward, Hugo.
Yeah, Mickey Nichols, got to give him a shout out. He's an amazing player and he probably hadn't had the best day to then apparently, but he can pop up. We had him in the Big V squad last year. He played a great game up at Bendigo and just shows you how dangerous he is with kicking 5 in the quarter. So that's great to see. Good for the club too.
No, it was. The other one was Matt Harvey, who was awesome. Numbers like this you don't see too often. 45 disposals and 10 clearances, if you don't mind. Brayden, Nick Dixon, the old Geelong coach, he must have been really happy to see the players come away with a big win there.
Yeah, really encouraged with their reward for the efforts, especially after an encouraging fortnight. So it was another step forward for us. I spoke to him as well, and he said that they had 10 debutants in round one. So that's taken a bit of an adjustment period as well, and they've had guys in and out of the side. So he feels like they're playing good enough footy. They just weren't getting the results, so he's really pleased with the steady improvement.
And Hugo, for Luke Giles, the Panthers coach, a step back.
Yeah, a bit of a tough day at the office. He didn't feel like they were in control at any stage of the game. Didn't defend the way they wanted to. Any good side wants to come forward and defend style and stop those handball chains, and they got opened up a few times. But there's still small signs that we're taking away to say we're on the right track. So you can have a bad day every now and then too, and it's a tough place to go to, and it's a great competition, Matty, very even.
No, absolutely. It's incredible when you look at the ladder, which we will do in a moment. Our next stop is at Fearon Reserve. Old Melburnians on the road getting a big win against Williamstown CYMS. They won by 30 points in the end. And again, accurate kicking proving to be pretty vital in this one. The CYs was second best in the first half, but it was accurate kicking that kept them in the game. They trailed by 2 points, 6-1-37 to 5-9-39 at that stage. But eventually the dominance of the OMs told tale, and it was a 5-goal-to-none third term that broke the game open. Old Melburnians eventually winning 11-15-81 to 8-3-51. And for the OMs, who had a bit of a slow start to the season, they've now won 4 of their past 5 games, gents. And they move up to second spot on the ladder. James Burns' men have got things humming along quite nicely. The CYs, they've fallen to 6th place now on the ladder, and you're going to see some pretty wild swings from one week to the next that we're given the evenness of it. But Brayden, for James Byrne and his team, must be really happy. He's put a lot of emphasis on systems. He's starting to see dividends with it now.
Yeah, exactly right. And they've probably been one of the big improvers over the last 4 weeks, as you touched on. He said they didn't make the most of the breeze that was at their back early on, but in the end, their pressure and the opportunities that they created, 26 scoring shots, eventually paid off. But like every good coach, he says there's still things that they can build on.
Yeah, that's spoken like a true coach. And Hugo, I'm sure you've used that cliche once or twice before.
Yes.
And Williamstown coach Contazoglu, the milestone man last week, what did he have to make of this performance?
Yeah, he was very complimentary of the Melburnians. Said they were fantastic after quarter time. Contested ball work caused a lot of issues. Their clearance work put them on the back foot. And he felt they were a bit stagnant in their ball movement, so they were pressed back in their back half. And to be quite honest, he said the scoreline flattered them. So credit to Old Melburnians, they were fantastic. But he's a great coach, Con, and they'll bounce back from this one. And you get a lot of learnings out of games like this, but they've seen one of the better ones for the competition, Matty, and Old Melburnians.
No, they have. Gordon Barnard Reserve is next. Old Camberwell returned to winning ways, coming off a disappointing defeat last week. They managed to get the job done against Beau Morris by 12 points. Again, accurate goal kicking proving to be the difference in this one. The Wellers had 8 fewer scores over the course of the match, yet still came away with the win. And when the scoreline reads something along the lines of 11-4-70 to 7-16-58, that tends to happen. Josh Gale led the way for the Wellers, 31 disposals. Liam Thomas and Nick Greaves each kicked 3 goals. Max Holt for the Sharks, he was their best forward and probably their most accurate as well. He kicked 5 goals too. And it means that both teams, after 6 games now, share a 2-4 record, separated only by percentage, and both just 1 win away from third spot. Hugo, he was frustrated with the performance last week. Neil Connolly must be happy with the way that his team responded, making the most of their opportunities to get the win over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to bounce back with the victory, and straight kicking is good football. But the pleasing sign is that as well is I know they kicked a lot of behinds and a lot of scoring shots, but the pressure going on to that to cause those behinds, which means they're working hard. So you can get lots of positives out to that, and just want to put together another good performance, take something out of this week into next. Just
taking leaving your coaching hat on for a second, does that scoreline from Beau Morris make you tear your hair out a little bit, the coach within you?
Oh, absolutely. You can't break it down into moments, but when you're kicking that many and you're looking at the scoreline, that's one that's got away, realistically. And look, it could be telling later in the season. And players don't realise that on the day, but coaches are always thinking. And later in the season, as I said, something will pop up and it'll pop back into your head. But anyway, you've got to move on. You can't kick them for them, Matty.
And what was in Josh Burke's head, the coach of the Sharks, Brayden?
Pretty much along those lines that you touched on. That they're looking at their offence and how they move the footy because we need a big improvement, or his words. But he gave full credit to Old Campbell. Well, him touching on the needing the big improvement, that says to me that they're having shots from out wide, long points, which as a coach, as a fan, I think a lot more people are starting to take notice of. If you kick long points, it is the most frustrating thing in football.
Yeah, no, definitely. You'll attest to that as well, Hugo.
Yeah, it is. But people blame the forwards as well. It can be how the balls move from up the ground. You know, if you're leading into a good spot and you get burnt and they kick it to someone in a pocket where you think, geez, what's going on there? Or if you're just overusing the ball, so all the good leads have expired. There's a lot of different factors.
Gary Smorgon Oval is where we head next. Collegians, well, they've been the team to beat so far in Premier B men's in 2026, and they maintained their unbeaten record, but they were forced to earn it against Ajax, winning by just 10 points and a tense struggle on the road. They lost Max Pinchbeck and Matt Warren prior to half-time, the Lions, so they were down to 2 on the bench in the second half, and they were trailing at the main break, but a 4-goal-to-none third term broke the game open, and they were able to hold on in the end, holding off the Jackers to win 11-11, 77-9, 13-67. Campbell Walker was outstanding for the Lions, 33 disposals and 2 goals. Jordan Cohen, in just his third game of the season for the Jackers, he kicked 4, takes his tally to 14 majors from just those 3 games. For Collegians, they're still 2 games clear on top of the ladder. Ajax, despite defeat, they remain in third place. So a really important win, a good test for Geordie McKenzie, Hugo, and his Lions coming up against a really good opposition and a couple down on the bench, a lot going against them, but they still found a way to win.
Yeah, they did against the hometown rivals. Only a bare short walk between the 2 grounds there. But he was pretty honest. He said it definitely could have gone either way. And in the first half, they weren't great with their fundamentals. We're hearing a lot of that word fundamentals. I think clubs are going back to that because that's your basics, that's your building blocks. And Ajax overworked them in the ground ball. So they were cleaner, hit the options better. And at halftime, they acknowledged that, and they got things going in the second half. And it was a good way to find a win. And so you take those as a coach moving forward.
And for Ajax, Brayden, Lachie Buzzard, what did he make of the performance?
Really proud of it. Just disappointed with the conversion in the last quarter. 4-8. You turn that into 8-4, and we're talking about their second grade upset of the season. So really proud. They stayed in the group, and he just acknowledged that Collegians are the best team in it. I think we're seeing that 2-game gap you mentioned. They're probably a class above at the moment.
Yeah, no doubt. They're considerable percentage as well atop of the ladder after round 6. It is 2 games in terms of win-loss record, but that percentage means that it's a lot more than that. The final match of Prem B for the weekend was at Chelmsford Park, and it was Old Ivanhoe, who have had a slow start to the season, but they've kept touch with those around them as they look to climb out of the relegation zone. They defeated De La Salle by 7 points in the end. They set the game up early, did the Hoers. They kicked 5 of the first 6 goals of the match, and they were able to hold off a late challenge from De La to win 14-10-94 to 13-9. 87 in the end. Patrick Naish, I mean, if VAFA Supercoach was the thing, you'd want him as your captain. 44 disposals and 3 goals for the Hoers. He was outstanding. And a bunch of players kicked 3 for D-La, including Luke Healy and Nick Buffalo. Despite the win, the Hoers remain in last spot on the ladder, but they're 1 game away from third spot on the ladder. Gents, that's absolutely remarkable. The third of the way through the season that you can still only be last spot, but still just a game away from third spot. D-La remain inside the top 4, and speaking about how close things are on the ladder, they trail Ajax in third spot by just 0.14%. It is tight at the top of the Premier B table. Hugo, for Xavier Naish, the coach of Old Ivanhoe, he must have been thrilled that these players were able to get the win.
Yeah, he said he was very happy to start that well, and he placed a real emphasis on that, especially at home, which is a hard ground to play at. Also, he felt it was important to do so against a side like D-La. He was super proud of the way the side stood up, especially when D-La were coming in the second half, and that makes it 2 wins in their last 3 games.
So they're slowly climbing their way out of the relegation zone, or at least trying to. 2 wins in the last 3, as you say. You go and Brayden, for D-La coach Nick Hyland, what did he have to say?
Yeah, it says a disappointing day for his side. Never felt like they were in a winning position, and he gave credit to Old Ivanhoe, defend the ground well, and they attack it well, and his side just weren't able to defend that ground well. It's the home ground advantage is something that can be so underrated.
And that wraps up the weekend. Round 6 of Premier B men's action as we now turn our attention to the ladder. Collegians still 2 games clear of the chasing pack. An unblemished record, 6-0 at 174.9%. They are humming along quite nicely at the moment, the Lions. 2 games behind them, we mentioned Old Melburnians. The coach James Burner's got things ticking along nicely. They moved up to second on the ladder, 4-2 record. Percentage of just 106, and there's a few teams that share a percentage quite similar to that. Ajax, De La Salle, Old Carey and Williamstown, they all hold a 3-3 record in the end. Ajax, we mentioned they lead De La Salle by just 0.14%. It is really close. Old Carey move out of the top four. They sit on 103.4%. A big gap in percentage then between them and Williamstown, who are on 89%. And then there are four teams rounding out the bottom four who are on a 2-4 record, who are also separated by just percentage. Beaumaris, Old Geelong, Old Camberwell and Old Ivanhoe. The gaps in percentage are a bit more sizable here. Beaumaris 101, Old Geelong 82, Old Camberwell 77.5 and then Old Ivanhoe 76.9. But gents, a third of the way through the season and it is almost impossible to pick 2nd through 10th.
No, very tight, Matty. Maybe that's reflecting your tipping.
I think that's what we'll go with, Hugo. We'll stick with that. Brayden, I mean, what are you making of it? It's so impossible to get a read on, isn't it?
Well, even Old Ivanhoe, I think we had them at the start of the season. We're talking top 2 finish, and now they're sitting last. But they're just starting to get rolling. Like, there was some good signs in that Collegians game where they're beaten pretty comprehensively, but you get more like Nation. What I like, some of the kids are starting to come out of the 19s. Leave them in the seniors and see what you can do, because something special might happen in the second half of the season.
Don't forget there's a change in the coaching staff there. So it takes a little while. There will be some little tweaks in there. I know it was probably part of the system, but things do need to change and players take a little while to pick up on that.
That's a wrap for Premier B men's for round 6. Coming up next, Premier C and Divisionals on For the Love of the Game.
Are you thinking about pulling on the boots and having a kick in 2026? If so, we'd love to have you in the VAFA. Australia's largest senior footy competition has teams suited to all ages and experience, from under-19s to seniors. Log on to vafa.com.au, check out our club directory and find a club near you.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk men's Premier C and Divisional. Lots of games to keep a really close eye on over the course of the weekend. Lots of exciting results to unpack, and we will start with Premier C. And Brayden, the scores from it, what have you got for us?
Yeah, a lot of 8-point games that we touched on in the last segment. So Hampton Rovers continued their good form with a 12-12-84 to 7-11-53 win over Marcelin. Mazenod came back to form with a massive win over Ormond, 23-12-150, with a bit of ton watch to come there, and Ormond 10-10-70. In the biggest game of the round for me, Parkdale Vultures 11-13-79 got the better of St. Bede's Mentone 9-11-65. Massive day down at Mentone Reserve between the two local rivals. Another game down towards the bottom part of the ladder that we'll touch on in a sec. Glen Ira 9-12-66 got the better of Old Peninsula at 5-9-39. And then Fitzroy, the premiership favourite at the moment, 2015-135, beat Pegs 10-4-64.
A comfortable victory there for Fitzroy. And then we'll look at the ladder now and see what it all means. Hugo, where do things stand?
Yeah, sitting on top, Fitzroy with a 6-0 record with a percentage of 183, so going along nicely. Second, Parkdale 5-1 with massive percentage of 237. Sitting third and going along nicely, Hampton Rovers 5-1 as well with a percentage of 136. And then rounding out the four, Mazenod sitting fourth with 5-1 as well and a percentage of 125. So just outside, we've got St. Bede's with the 3-3 record and a percentage of 143. Then Glen Ira, which really needed that win on the weekend, 2-4, percentage a little bit of concern at 69. Marcelin and 1-5 with a percentage of 72. Ormond sitting 8th, so we're starting to get down to the relegation zone here, but Ormond sitting 8th with 1-5 and a percentage again of 65. So these might start to come into play later in the season. And sitting 9th in the dreaded relegation zone, we have Pegs 1-5 with a percentage of 60, and then Old Peninsula 1-5 with a percentage of 50. So bit of a raft starting to build between the top and the bottom there, but percentages are a concern for mine down the bottom end.
Yeah, it's a bit of a contrast, Brayden, to Premier B, where it's just so tough to pick. There's a clear chasm now starting to open up between the top 5 and the bottom 5.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, you see some of the teams up towards the top of the ladder. They've been in Premier B the last couple of seasons. Then you've got Parkdale Vultures, who we've discussed previously. They've been in the mix the last couple of seasons. It is such a big step. And then you see Ormond and Old Peninsula in that bottom half of the ladder. Teams that did just come up from Division 1 and your likes of pegs. It is a challenge, but that gap is growing. But we're getting to that time of year where grounds get wet, they get heavy, it's cold, people go away for the European summer or just warmer weather in general. So we might get some shock results that may make up both ends of the ladder.
You were right, Brayden. It is the biggest step in the VAFA. We're going out of divisional football into Prem C. So your objective there is just got to get up and consolidate. Get a feel for the competition, the professionalism, the speed of the game. It's a tough one, but the opportunity's there.
Yeah, the Tullamarine flu, footy's great equaliser. 4 teams with a 5-1 record or better, and then 4 teams with a 1-5 record in Prem C. Divisions time or divisional time now, Hugo. We'll start with Div 1 and the scores from the weekend.
Yeah, massive result there. Brunswick 25-8, straight kicking there, 158 over Uni High 6-16. So we're seeing this again, Matty. Straight kicking's good football. Then across at Rutherford Reserve, we had Preston with another massive result, 25-9. Straight kicking again, Matty, and defeated Q 9-11-65. Then in a reasonably close one at Coonung Reserve, Yarra Old Cobras 9-7-61 went down to Monash Blues at 12-15-87. And then at Scammell Reserve, Parkside, big victory here at Oakley's home ground, 18-7, defeating Oakley 10-7-67. And then rounding out at Ferndale Park, we had Paran, a great victory there, 14-3, straight kicking again, Matty.
Yeah,
87, defeating St Mary's 9-6-60. So a good win there by Paran.
Don't think there's many better aesthetics in the game than a team that kicks 20 or more goals and kicks single-figure behinds.
Yeah, look, as a coach, I always aim to try and beat the 50-50 curve. So 11-11 is sort of a pass mark, but say, if you're kicking twice as many points to goals, that's troublesome. But when you're kicking twice as many goals to points, that's happy days for a coach.
Yeah, and you give yourself every chance of a win, regardless of the balance of play if you're doing that. The ladder, Brayden, what does that look like?
The Preston Bulldogs, they remain top of the ladder, 6-0. Just want to give them a quick shout out. Massive weekend for the footy club and their junior arm this weekend. They're actually hosting games at Preston City Oval, so it's going to be great to see the Bulldogs name back at one of footy's most famous grounds. In second place, Parkside, who we just touched on, with a 5-1 record. A game further back, 3rd and 4th, Paran and Oakley. So this top 4 is looking pretty settled at the moment with what we've got. St Mary's Salesian made a blistering start to the year. They're 3-3. Their percentage has now dropped back to about 93. They sit in 5th position. Brunswick on 10 points. They've got 2 wins, 3 losses and a draw, obviously, from the game that was called off against Monash Blues. Q, they sit in 7th with 2 wins and 8 points. Monash Blues are also on 8 points, but they've got 1 win, 2 draws with the abandoned game. UHS, VU are 1 game further back with 1 win and a draw, and Old Yarra Cobblers are yet to get the 4 points. Yeah,
it's looking like a very competitive top 4 in Division 1 so far at the very least. And then turning attention to Division 2, Brayden, you've got the scores from that competition from round 6.
Matty, I'm glad I'm not tipping this competition. This is just wild. The results that keep coming up here. Melbourne High School Old Boys, one of the form teams of the competition. They got the better of South Melbourne Districts, 14-12, 96-12, 78 among those clubs down at the Albert Park precinct. North Brunswick, they picked up their first win of the season. They've been smashed by injuries. 8-14-62 to 5-11-41. So they got that win at ATC Cook Reserve. They're home for the season. They've been moved away from Allied Park as it undergoes some major works. White Friars off to an absolute flyer here. A 14-7-91 win to over Elstonwick, 12-12-84. I think we'll see these two sides later in the year, Hugo.
Yeah, I think so. I know it was a come-from-behind victory there as well. A few little injury concerns at Elstonwick at the moment. But, it's not season ending, but we'll definitely see them featuring later in the season, I feel.
Speaking of Brunswick, it's a good weekend to be part of the core down there. West came away with an 11-18-84 to 7-11-53 win over Theory Penola. And then rounding out the weekend in a bit of a statement performance from Canterbury, 17-21-123, got the better of Powerhouse, 8-13-61 between two sides up towards the upper part of the ladder.
Yeah, a couple of big wins for a number of teams across Div 2 over the weekend, Hugo. And what does that look like on the ladder?
Okay, so we've got Whitefriars in top spot, as you would expect, 6-0 with a percentage of 137. Then Canterbury with that big result again. They're 5-1, sitting second with a percentage of 147. Elstonwick is sitting third, 4-2 with a percentage of 128. And then just behind them, Powerhouse on forward 2 as well, with a percentage of 124, so that rounds out the top 4. And then behind that, we've got Melbourne High 3-3 with a percentage of 96. Just behind them, South Melbourne 2-4 with a percentage of 92. West Brunswick 2 and 4 as well, sitting 7th with a percentage of 89. And Terry Penola 2 and 4 as well with a percentage of 77. And then jumping back to 9th and 10th, we've got Aquinas 1 and 5 with a percentage of 70 and North Brunswick 1 and 5 with a percentage of 63. So a little bit to play out in that one, but you're seeing a little bit of a split between that top 4, which a lot of people think is set. But anything can happen because, as we know, the Tullamarine flu, injuries, so many things with divisional football. But it's a nice little competition going along there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brayden, I've got to call something out. You're glad you're not tipping Div 2. I mean, if I was involved in in picking that, it'd be an absolute disaster. But this is what you want. You want a really even competition, and where any side can beat any other side. You would much prefer this and have a nightmare with the tipping as opposed to the alternative where some of the leagues and some of the teams can be a bit too one-sided.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And what I'm loving is Powerhouse have done well. Alstonwick have come down. They've resettled themselves, got a bit more luck with injury. Well, not as much as they probably would have liked after last year where they were absolutely smashed. It felt like if they walked out on the ground, they were tearing a muscle or something. But Canterbury have backed up last year's form. Like Aquinas lost on the weekend, but a week earlier they beat Canterbury, who would be one of the form teams in the competition. It's fantastic. It's a great advertisement for the VAFA. It's also a great advertisement for what great coaching can do as well.
Yeah, so you look at results like that, and come later in the season, you'll see some big results that could have finals implications as well. So you have to be on your game each week, and it's good to be baking early wins.
And then rounding out our divisional wrap of the men's competition for this weekend is Div 3. Obviously, there's only the 2 fixtures playing out. Hugo, the results?
Yeah, so Richmond Central 12-17-89 defeated Albert Park 7-11-53. That was at Oval number 20 at Bow Repairs Pavilion down there in the Lake Precinct. And then up at Latrobe Uni 10-5-65 were defeated by Hawthorn 13-15-93. So.
And then what does that mean then for the ladder then, Brayden?
So Wattle Park still lead the way there with a 4-0 record and a whopping percentage of 453. Richmond Central joined them on 16 points, but they've played the extra game. The Animals had the bye on the weekend. They've got a 4-1 record with 134%. Hawthorn sit third, 3-2, 113%. Latrobe 1 win so far with 56%, and the Falcons at Albert Park winless with 37%.
And that is a wrap of men's Premier C divisional wrap of all the men's competitions on the weekend. Coming up next, it's Premier Women's Review for the love of the game.
Keep up to date with everything that's happening around the VAFA by subscribing to our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook and LinkedIn. Has someone just taken a screamer or kicked goal of the year? Send us your best and we might share them around the league. Join in the fun with all the best pics, videos, stories and reels from around the competition. They're all on VAFA socials. Search VAFA and VAFA Women's on your favourite platforms.
Time to talk Premier Women's now, and the big story to come out of round 6 was Westbourne Grammarians in the top flight. Would have been a tremendous story it's been over the last few years, coming from the WRFL through to the VAFA in Prem B last year, into the top flight this time around, and they got their first win of the campaign against Old Geelong at the weekend. A 7-point win, 4-3-27 to 2-8-20. And joining us now is the coach of Westbourne, Chris Grant. Chris, welcome.
Hi, boys. Thanks for having me on.
How does it feel to finally, it's been a great story over the last few years, but to get to this point, the top flight in the VAFA division, to get that first win of the season, just how does that feel?
It's tremendous. It's really exciting for the girls in the club. As you've just outlined then, it's been a quick journey for us. We've just been in the VAFA competition for this is our third year. And the girls are developing and progressing really well. So, it took us to week 6 to get our first win, but a tremendous day as well. Our reserves also got their first win, and our under-19s started the day with a win in the morning. So it was 3 from 3, and we also had our breast cancer research funding day as a family day. So all in all, it was a great day.
A tremendous weekend for the club, all things considered. You sort of mentioned what a rise it's been over the last few years. Has it sunk in just how much the club has achieved in such a short period of time?
Look, it's been, I think when you're in it and you're in it weekly, on a weekly basis, you do sort of ride the ups and the downs along the way. So probably reflecting, you think it hasn't been very long and it's come very quickly. But when you're in it, obviously there's a lot of work and time put in to get to this point. And we've had an interesting progression because, as you said, we've been in Prem B for the first 2 years in 24 and 25. And we made a prelim last year. So we didn't, have the automatic elevation into Prem this year, but with a bit of a restructure required on the eve of the season, with unfortunately Old Melburnians needing to step back to Prem B, the league asked us, Jason and Mark, what our thoughts were and whether we'd be sort of up for the challenge of stepping into that void. And we've got a very young group coming through, so there was a few discussions around it. And once we sort of talked about that with the players, and that they were really keen to do it, we're really supportive. So, look, it'll be a hard year as far as wins and losses, but a great development opportunity for the team too.
So, Chris, with the step up and how quick it happened, and now you're a few games into it, how have the girls coped with the better quality, the more pressure, and sort of the above the shoulders aspect in that?
Yeah, look, it's been a bit of a journey the whole way through, with the ups and downs and the girls coping with it. I think when we came out of local football, out of the Western Football Netball League, with the majority of the group who had performed really well for a number of years and won a couple of flags, stepping into Prem B in our first year, the first sort of half a dozen games, it was a real shock. Just the standard of the competition was a real rise. So there was some battles through there, and then the following year we had the same experience. But as the year went on, I think we won 5 games in our first year, and we won 8, including a final in our second year. So the girls had sort of, as the time went on, just continued to cope better and better with it, which is part of the reason why we were so keen to take the opportunity of stepping up to Premier this year, even though we didn't make a grand final last year or win the premiership to give us that automatic elevation. Stepping up to it is, the idea being to fast track the girls' development and give it an opportunity to see what the top flight's like. And whilst that's been up and down, we've copped a couple of hidings, but we've had a couple of narrow losses too, so we're not far away.
Chris, you touched on the 19 starting the day with a win. What's that done for the football program at Westbourne in terms of the connection between junior and senior football and just the development of some players that might not be just ready for senior women's footy yet?
Yeah, well, that's been a really important program, and it's a great development and decision that the league made to introduce the under-19 girls this year. It's brought a lot of girls from the local competition who really want to test themselves at a slightly higher level than just local competition, and it's certainly done that. It is just the 4 teams this year, but outside of that, it's a really strong competition. So those girls are definitely getting an opportunity of fast-tracking their development. And we've been able to, through the under-19s, just like you would normally get with the under-19 boys, the girls who are performing well, just to give them a bit of a taste of either reserves football or senior football, as they're looking to step into the senior ranks the following year. So now we've got some exciting talent coming through, and hopefully the group can stay together over the next couple of years, because as they progress and develop, it'll be quite an exciting young team.
So, Chris, let's talk about the game on the weekend. Amazing scoreline. So 2-2-14 to 6 points at quarter time, then 2-2-14 to 9 points at half time, 3-quarter time, 4-3-27 out to a fly and to 12 points, and then final scoreline 4-3-27 to 20 points. So was there a gale wind there, or just prefer kicking one into the ground?
Yeah, no, there was a bit of a breeze. It was going to one end and sort of over into one pocket, and that did sort of add to that scoreline a little bit. And look, the 2 teams, ourselves and Old Geelong, were really closely matched, and I think Old Geelong would consider themselves sort of unlucky not to win as well, because they played some really good footy. So it was a very close game, which meant it was sort of going from one end to the other end without a lot of scoring. But that's good, because it was an exciting brand of footy. Both teams were defending well, and we were just sort of in that position where we could hold on in the last, where Old Geelong had a little bit of a breeze behind them. So look, it was great to be able to hold on and finish the day with our first win.
And so moving forward, obviously you can take a lot out of that. You can talk to the girls about, look, we held on in that game when they were coming, and you can always go back to that now.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we spoke about post the game. So you might have been in our rooms, were you? Because
I was a little bit busy, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we spoke about. The girls had done an enormous amount of work for 3 quarters, and that third quarter was really telling for us. But they were exhausted by 3/4 time, and that's sort of really been the one of the big step ups to Premier, where the speed of the game and the ball movement, they do fatigue a bit quicker because they are younger. So that third quarter was really telling, and we knew that Old Geelong were going to keep coming. They've actually got some quite talented players, and they did. They got a goal with about sort of 3 minutes to go to reduce it to 7 points. So it was a nervous sort of 3 minutes or so, but the girls were fantastic in the last couple of minutes and hung on.
It's clearly, Chris, a very special group. The adjustment they've made to the VAFA so quickly and to get to a prelim in Prem B last year. And you've mentioned that in addition to this win, there's been some really competitive performances throughout so far this campaign. Can you nail it down what it is about this group that's so special?
Well, they're talented young girls. That's the first thing, and part of the reason for being with us is because they really do have a desire to take their football to the highest level that they can get, and that might be they've got quite a few Western Jets girls in the squad, but some girls are participating at VFL level either this year or previously who still harbour those ambitions. But we've also got girls who don't really have that ambition to play at VFL level, but just want to play at the top level they possibly can in the state in women's footy. And there's no doubt that the VAFA Prem women's competition is the highest standard that I've seen across Victoria, and I think it's known to be that. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why the girls do want to be involved, and I think also too it provides that little middle ground for girls who are or women who are participating really well at local level. Doesn't matter if it's Western Football Netball League or Eastern or Essendon or Northern. It's just that little bridge that they can test themselves in just to see whether they might stack up to get to a higher level. So there's a whole range of reasons, but ultimately, they're just a great bunch of girls, and they've stayed together for so long because they really enjoy each other's company. And as I said, we had our fundraiser for breast cancer awareness, and that's just testament to the girls and what they stand for and the types of things they want to give back to the community. So we're very lucky to have them.
And just on that breast cancer awareness weekend, you've mentioned it a couple of times. What did that entail exactly for the club?
Well, the girls, really did a stellar job. That they really drove it. So we nominated that be the weekend, and obviously to tie into to the league stuff. So they really drove it. We nominated it to be our family day, so we invited all families, siblings, grandparents, and friends to come along. We had a really decent crowd with the under-19s starting the day. We actually put our senior game in between the under-19s and reserves game to sort of have that as a highlight fixture. So there's a really decent crowd, and then everyone had their baked goods, and they sold those off, and also had some raffles and raised some money. So I think having the 3 wins was the icing on the cake, pardon the pun, with the baking, and they had a great night after it, which was tremendous.
Well, it was truly a memorable weekend for the club. Chris, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and congratulations on the weekend, and best of luck for the rest of the campaign.
Thanks, guys. Good on you.
Great to catch up with Chris Grant, the coach of Westbourne, and of course they got their first win in Premier Women's at the weekend. A terrific weekend for the club, so congratulations to them. Gentlemen, as we look at the rest of the result in Premier Women's, Brayden?
Yeah, Caulfield Grammarians, massive win here over Old Brighton. 13-10-88 to 0-1-1. What an outstanding effort from the fields there. In another close game that we follow in Westbourne, St Kevin's 4-2-26 got the better of West Brunswick 3-3-21. And then a bit of a statement in the final game. Fitzroy 4-5-29 beat Q 3-2-20. So this competition is getting closer and closer each week, Matty.
No, absolutely it is. And we turn our attention now to the ladder. And sitting on top, it is still Caulfield, who have a 5-1 record after the opening 6 games. Old Scotch, who had the bye, have the game in hand now. They've still got 4 wins to their name. And then they are level on 4 wins with Fitzroy and St Kevin's. Percentage separating those two. Old Scotch with 296%, if you don't mind. They're tracking along quite nicely. West Brunswick and Kew, they've each got 3 wins to their name. Old Geelong and Old Brighton, 2 wins to their name. And Westbourne, who did get their first win of the season, but they still sit in last place on the ladder. Hugo, Prem B.
Prem B. So the results we got there. So Williamstown, 2-4-16, defeated Glen Ira 1-4-10. That was over there at Williamstown. And this is a tough trip. Beaumaris played out at Pitcher Park, Parkside, so a long way from Beaumaris there, but Parkside 1-7-13. Beaumaris with a massive win, 7-13-55. So very hard to play out at that ground, so that's a huge win in that result there. And then Port Melbourne playing at home, 1-6-12, were defeated by Old Melburnians 3-4-22. And then in a really good result for Old Zabs, so at Basil Reserve, in East Malvern, 5-9-39 over Yarra Old Cobras 4-3-27. And that rounds it out, Matty.
It does. And as we turn our attention then to the ladder for Premier B, Beaumaris still with a perfect record, 6-0, percentage of 277, comfortably in front of the chasing pack. Port Melbourne Chargers and Old Melburnians are both 2 games behind them with a 4-2 record. And then a game behind them, Old Zaverians and Parkside have both even the ledger at 3-3. Williamstown CYMS on their own in 6th place with a 2-4 record. And then rounding out the bottom 2 with 1 win to their name each, Glen Ira Old McKinnon and Old Yarra Cobras. Glen Ira Old McKinnon in front only on percentage. That's the Prem B wrap for the women's, and then we'll look at divisionals. We'll start with Div 1, Brayden.
So obviously there's been this restructure in recent weeks, and with some of these teams have stepped up in grade. They're doing really well, and one of those is Powerhouse. 6-13-49 beat Whitefriars 4-4-28. So they are still high up on the ladder that Matty will touch on in a sec. Marcelin 6-3-39 got the better of Old Carey 2-1-13. Ormond, another lopsided result, 8-9-57, defeated Oakley 2-4-16, and then rounding out the result of the weekend, Monash Blues 9-11-65, beat Latrobe 1-4-10.
And then we'll look at the ladder, and it's Marcelin who is still out on top, also with a 6-0 record, unbeaten to start 2026. Powerhouse again behind them with a 5-1 record, 244.8%. A game behind them, Ormond with a 4-2 record. And then a couple of draws make things a little tighter in the middle of the ladder. Monash Blues, half a game behind Ormond with a 3-2-1 record. Oakley, a game behind Monash with a 2-3-1 record. Old Carey with a 2-4 record, half a game behind Oakley. Whitefriars in 7th with a 1-5 record. And then Latrobe still looking for their first win of 2026. Hugo, Division 2.
Div 2, so a high-scoring one to start, Matty. Beaumaris, 7-8-50, defeating MCC 6-5-41. Then the tight one, DLR 3-4-22, defeated Uni High 3-2-20. Then we have St Mary's Salesian 8-5-53, defeating Hampton Rovers 3-2-20. And rounding it out, we have Old Camberwell 3-4-22, defeating Richmond 1-3-9.
And as we look at the ladder, another unbeaten team, DLR, who are at 2 games clear. They have a 6-0 record to start. And then there are 3 teams who are sitting on a 4-2 record, entrenched in the top 4 at this stage. Beaumaris, Richmond Central and UHSVU, all with very, very healthy percentages, and are all a game clear of both Old Camberwell and MCC FC, who are both on a 3-3 record. St Mary's Salesian in 7th with a 2-4 record. Hampton Rovers with 1 win to their name, rounding out the ladder in 8th spot. Brayden.
Yes, and it's really tight in Division 3. The Prahran Collegians, the 2 Blue Lions, we believe they've got the greatest name in footy here.
It's the best nickname.
It's fantastic. They came away with another win. 3-7-25, beat Caulfield Grammarians, their 3rd side, 2-1-13. Parkdale Vultures, they picked up a win, 6-9-45, beat Hawthorn 4-2-26. And then Old Haileybury, big winners, 12-11-83 over Old Yarra Cobras, 2nd side, 0-1-1.
So we've got to have a bit of a word, I think, here with Parkdale at this point, because the percentage has dropped again, Brayden. It's now only sitting at 1,077%. This has been a bit of a disappointing fall-off, I think, in the last couple of weeks. Would you agree?
some board discussions need to be held with the coaching staff. Not enough attacking football, too much defensive systems. Hugo, what would you make of this as a coach?
I'd like to be coaching it. I wouldn't want to be coaching against it. But yes, no, you'd probably. Look, the other sides will be looking at them pretty closely, so I know we jest of it, but it's a massive percentage. I don't think I've ever seen it in the thousands before.
Oh, well, they got a lot higher than that. I think it was sitting at about 5,000 at one point after the first fortnight of the season. It's pretty incredible. 1,077% for Parkdale, 6-0 record. Parang Collegians, the two Blue Lions, the best nickname in footy. We'll reiterate it throughout the course of 2026. Their percentage is 393. Looks minuscule in comparison. A 5-1 record alongside Old Haileybury, 233% for the Bloods. Hawthorn, a 4-2 record in fourth spot, and then a big gap. 3 games between them and Caulfield Grammarians, who sit 1-5 in fifth spot, and then Old Yarra Cobra is still looking for their first win of 2026. And that's the ladder for Div 3. Hugo, we'll move on to Div 4.
Yes, so we've got tale of kicking here, Matty. So Mazenod 5-2, 32, great kicking. Aquinas 3-7, 25. So straight kicking is good football. And then we turn our heads to Canterbury, 6-4, 40. Old Zavs 4-5, 29. So a good victory by Canterbury there. And then Brunswick, again, 8-1, 49. We love straight kicking here. It's good. MUWFC, 2-2, 14. And then Fitzroy Senior Women. So everything's going really well at Fitzroy at the moment. 7-6, 48. North Brunswick, 2-3, 15.
Rounding things out, Div 5, Brayden.
We'll start with St. Kevin's women's third side, a 7-13, 55-0 win over Monash Blues 2. Elstonwick with a 13-15, 93 win over De La Salle 2. West Brunswick, their third side, 4-5, 29, beat Ormond's second side, 2 straight 12. Preston Bulldogs could have been a much bigger win, 1-9-15 to 1 behind win against South Melbourne Districts. And then Glen Ira's second side overcame Parkside's second side, 58-40.
And as we look at the ladder now, it's St Kevin's who are still out in front, half a game clear of Preston Bullants. St Kevin's with 4.5 wins to their name. Preston Bullants with 4 wins to their name. West Brunswick and Elstonwick Park each have a 3-3 record. They round out the top 4 percentage separating those two sides. Half a game behind them are Parkside. Half a game behind them are Glen Ira, Old McKinnon, who have the 2-3 record. South Melbourne, they have a 2-4 record. They're in 7th spot at the moment. Ormond and Monash Blues both with a 1-5 record. And then D-La at the bottom of the ladder, still looking for their first win in 2026. That brings a wrap to Premier Women's and Divisional Women's for this week. Coming up next, Under-19s with LACHIE MOIR and CENCHY. We're going to have to check to see if he's hit the magical 270,000 follow-up mark yet. That's coming up next on For the Love of the Game.
The VAFA Rising Star Award recognises the competition's most talented young players. Each week, the VAFA Rising Star Committee receives nominations for 1 male and 1 female player aged 20 years or under who played no more than 7 senior games before this season. Our overall season winners will be declared the VAFA Rising Stars for 2026. So if your club has a young gun making their mark, nominate them now at media@vafa.com.au.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the VAFA. It is time to talk under-19s now. We've got our dynamic duo who are with us. One is in studio, CENCHY, and I've got to check with you, CENCHY. Is it are we up to 270,000 Instagram followers yet?
We actually are.
We
hit it. So, good little milestone, but it's good to be back on with you boys.
Congratulations to you, and always good to have you, and always good to have this man as well, our resident under-19 expert, LACHIE MOIR. LACHIE, welcome to you.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, good to be back again. Another great round of footy.
It is, and we'll start with the match. There was a couple of close ones this weekend in the under-19s. Old Scotch and St Kevin's is where you want to kick things off, though.
Yeah, look, really big win from Old Scotch. They've really turned around the last couple of weeks, and they've taken a big scalp here. Speaking to Coach Hugo Borum, he is very happy with how they've been able to turn their form around, and he's saying that the vibes are high down there at Scotch, so that's always good to hear from a senior coach. But yeah, on the other side of the coin, I think St Kevin's just bad kicking, unfortunately, killed them on the day. And I think Paul Greenham, the coach, he was full of praise for Scotch and their form, and sort of saying that they're one of the benchmark teams in the competition right now based on form. So good to see Old Scotch get back to winning ways, and hopefully they can go on with it.
Yeah, final score of 9-9-63 there, Old Scotch, and St Kevin's 7-15-57. So to your point, inaccurate kicking costing St Kevin's the game there, Hugo.
Yes, so flicking across now to another Brighton Beach Oval victory for Old Brighton. So 15-5-95, Uni Blues 6-7-43. So stamping a bit of authority there, Old Brighton.
Yeah, they were once again really good. They're very hard to beat at home. Their midfield had a really good game. I thought it was one of their best games of the season. Their ability to turn the ball over in their front half was second to none. And I think there's a huge game next week for them against De La Salle, obviously before the bye. So they can really head into the bye clear on top and really show that they're one of the premier teams in the competition. For Uni Blues, unfortunately, they just can't seem to score that efficiently at the moment. They currently sit bottom of the under-19 Premier competition and are in desperate need of a win. But, yeah, it's not going to get any easier for them. And it's obviously tricky when you come up like a great sort of well-oiled machine like old Brighton.
Lockie, you mentioned the word efficiency there. Bo Morris, 8.452 to Old Zabs, 6.15.51. There is a big difference in efficiency in front of goal there.
Yeah, 100%. Old Zabs would be absolutely kicking themselves with their ability to put the ball through the big sticks, and Bo Morris, well, they just held them off by 1 point. So it's always tough to lose by 1 point, especially when you kick 15 behind. So it was a close contest. I think these sort of arm wrestles we're getting used to seeing in this competition. It's very even. I wouldn't worry too much if you're in the Old Zabs camp. I think they just had an off day kicking wise and they'll be back. But yeah, their ability to, I think Old Zabs, their ability to restrict other teams' scorings has been a big sort of focal point of their game, but they've just got to score themselves. And yeah, kicking 15 points is always going to be hard to win a game.
And a massive result that no one saw coming, especially me, but Caulfield Grammarians 16-12-108 defeated De La Salle 7-10-52. Set up on the back of a massive first quarter. I think it was 7-1, and they were up and about on the day. I hear from a few sources, the Caulfield Grammarians.
Yeah, 100%. Coach Cooper Rule said it was one of their most complete performances of the year, and he was really proud of how they were able to take it to De La Salle. They dominated all phases of the game, and their ball movement and their ability to punish off turnover was very impressive. Speaking to Andy Otten, coach of De La Salle, unfortunately they just had an off day, and he conceded that Caulfield probably outplayed them in all facets of the game on the day, and they weren't really at their best. So the fundamentals and these opportunities for his side to learn going forward, I think, was something that he stressed was really important going forward. So they're obviously still a very good team and they'll be able to bounce back. But yeah, Caulfield, definitely one of the wins of the round. They're really starting to tick along nicely.
And then in the highly anticipated game, St. Bede's Mentone, 9-10-64, got the better of Parkdale Vultures, 8-6-54. I believe Cenchy did cut up a few highlights from this for the VAFA socials. Cenchy, what were some of the highlights you took away?
The Curtis Howe goal, out of the clearance to start the fourth quarter, I believe. It was a close game, obviously, so a critical point of the game. And Jai Pugsley, I think, kicked 3 in the final quarter.
It was the hometown clash. I think they're about a K from each other, so I think they know each other pretty well.
For sure.
They certainly do. Lockie, what the coaching staff made this one?
Yeah, speaking of Joe Pugsley, they were full of praise for him kicking 3 goals, and he really stepped up late. Liam Napier and Lockie Hecker also got big mentions on the day for strong leadership. Lockie Hecker also kicked 3 goals, so they were big for St. Bede's. They're quietly building a very strong season here, St. Bede's, ticking along nicely. They're up to second, so they're airborne, and their ability to win these low-scoring games is proving to be very beneficial. So, yeah, look, Parkdale, not disgraced on the day, but yeah, St. Bede's Mentone ticking along nicely, up to second. They've got big things coming, I think.
And you mentioned the ladder, then Lockie will turn our attention to it, and it is a two-way tie up the top. Old Brighton and St. Bede's Mentone both holding a 5-1 record after round 6, percentage only separating the two sides. De La Salle sit in third, a 4-2 record. St. Kevin's and Old Zavarians tied on 3-3 apiece. Big gap in percentage, though, 43% separating those two sides. And then Caulfield Grammarians, they've got 2-3 and a draw in their record as well, which means they're half a game clear of Old Scotch, Parkdale and Bo Morris, who are all half a game ahead of University Blues, who round out the top 10. And now, gents, Lockie and essentially we need to turn our attention to tips. You both got 2 out of 5 this weekend, so it's good to know that I'm not alone.
I got to say, I got 5 out of 5 last week, and then I checked the results at 11:40, and I was 2 for 2. I'm like, all is going well here, and then I proceeded to get the next 3 games wrong.
So it means that the margin remains the same as things stand at round 6. Cenchy, you've got a lead of 20 or 4 at this stage. You're on 20 at this stage. Lockie is on 16. So Lockie, you get to go Hang on, how does it go? The leader goes first, doesn't he? I should know this by now. Cenchy, you're going to go first, and we will start with Caulfield and St Bede's Mentone, which is our showcase game. It's on Community TV, 11:40 Glen Huntley Park. Which way are you leaning in this one?
I will go St Bede's Mentone.
Lockie?
Yeah, I'll follow suit and go St Bede's. I think they're ticking along nicely.
D. Lascelles against Old Brighton. This is the early kickoff, 9:20 a.m. at Waverley Oval. Cenchy?
I've got one question before I tip. Hugo, will you be down there on Saturday?
I'll be there for a bit, but I think Matty and I have got a double later in the day, so we've got to start at 11:30. I'll be there at 9:20.
So I'll go D-Lar to lead at half time, but Old Brighton to win.
Lockie?
Yeah, look, I'll go D-Lar to win. I think I've got to try and go against him here. I've got a 4-point margin to eat up, so yeah, I'll go D-Lar.
Alrighty then. Stradbroke Park, we move into our 2 p.m. kickoff games now. Old Zavs and Parkdale. Cenchy?
I'll go with the home team, Old Zavs.
Lockie?
Yeah, I'll take Old Zavs as well in this one.
GH King Oval is the other one. St Kevin's and University Blues.
St Kevin's for mine.
Yeah, St Kevin's. I think they'll be winning.
And then rounding out the weekend of under-19s football, Moorabbin West, Bo Morris and Old Scotch.
I'm on the bandwagon here for Old Scotch. I can't tip against them, so the last 2 weeks have been pretty impressive. So,
yeah, form team of the comp, so Old Scotch for me.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you for that, gents. Thank you for your time and your insights again, Lockie. Always much appreciated. We'll wish you the best of luck with your tips this week, and we'll reconvene next time.
No worries, boys. Thanks for having me on again.
Looking for VAFA updates on the go? Download the brand new VAFA app today. Get live scores, fixtures, ladders, and all the latest VAFA news right at your fingertips. Whether you're a player, supporter, or just love local footy, the VAFA app keeps you in the game. Search VAFA in your app store and download it now.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. We're on the home stretch now. We're going to start with CENCH-WATCH, and of course the competition every weekend is under the watchful eye of Cench, our eye in the sky. He's in charge of all the socials and casting his gaze over the entire competition, so always keen to see what he takes away from the weekend. Cenchy, what have you got for us this time around?
it's good to be back. It's good to get the call up for a second week. I still think we need a better name. CENCH-WATCH just doesn't work, so
we'll workshop that.
Yeah,
put it out to your followers.
By this time next week, we need a better name. So
okay, well, that's a call for the 270,000 followers of CENCH-WATCH. We need your suggestions. DM Cenchy for that, and we'll brainstorm.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of those.
It's only right I start with Old Scotch under 19s. I'm on the bandwagon, I'd like to say. They needed a hero late. Eddie McCorkle, their full-backman, they sent him forward. 2 huge contested pack marks late, kicked 2 goals. I believe he kicked the last 2 goals of the game, and they won by 6 points. So just a shout out to him. Off to I'm staying at Old Scotch actually. Will Clark. I've just been putting together his highlights package from the weekend, and it got me thinking. Who do you guys think? I want your 2 most watchable players in William Buck Premier Men's.
2 most watchable players.
Most watchable.
Like, I personally am nominating Will Clark just because...
What's going on there? There's something with you and Scotch, isn't there?
I don't know. I might be...
We'll keep it on. This
Yeah, it's a Hugo watch.
Yeah, Hugo watch on Cench.
So most watchable. So we're not necessarily going, who are the best players, but who are the ones that we go to the footy, we're covering their games and we go, great, I'm really glad of watching this team because this guy's playing this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, gents, is there anyone that leaps off the page for either of you?
Funny you say that word, leaps off the page. It's got to be away Macking. He's a frequent flyer. He's the most watchable player in the competition. He's an excitement machine. And it might just be half a quarter or something like that. But calling the games, I love it because I always know where he is. And you can see him building and the ball's coming. You think, is this going to be it? And generally, 9 times out of 10, it is.
His fourth quarter against Brighton a few weeks ago was special. So
amazing.
Yeah, that won them the game there. All right, away Macking, Brayden, and you...
I had 2.
All
right. One from left field here. Someone I love his raw ability. Josh Carr at Old Brighton.
Yeah.
We've touched on him at this show. This is a kid that hadn't played senior footy before last year. I think he missed 24, played 25, and I just love the way he goes about it. He leaps. He's an extra midfielder, and you can just tell he's got this untapped potential that the Tunners are working with. He's just someone I love watching. I love a big fella, Luke Jackson, that just once they hit the ground, they do things you don't know what they're going to do. It can be good or bad for the coaching staff. Hugo, I'm sure you've coached a few of those guys, but he's just someone I really like and someone that a lot of people should get to know.
Well, we saw it, Matty, out at Scotch. It was at half forward, a ruck contest against Will Clark. Pushed him out of the way, grabs the ball out of the ruck, turns around, kicks it to Felix Flockhart, who kicks a goal. Like taking the ball out of the ruck, that's showing confidence as a young player too against accomplished ruckman. So yeah, he's good. My second, so I'll go second. We'll finish off with Matty. For pure X factor, Jack Benck for St Kevin's. He's one that there's always something going to happen. And it could be he can have an 11 possession game, but kick 5 and probably kick 4 of them in a quarter. And there'd be 2 fights, he'll get sent off. There's all sorts of stuff going. No, he's exciting.
No, he's a bit of a wild card. Well, one of the players that I had, and we watched him at the weekend, Hugo, on the losing side, but I thought Ben Overman was terrific.
Yes,
and there's been a bit of a theme with us with intercepting defenders, and I think they're such a valuable asset.
Yes.
And he is someone who is that, but he is also quite capable of running his full measure and then driving a 50-metre kick down the ground as well. He creates so much drive, but is so good at winning the ball back. He's got a great balance between offence and defence to his game.
We saw that on the weekend. I think he ran through the middle of the ground, gave it off, got it back, kicked a goal. So yeah, exciting.
The other one that I really like is Karan Barati, who's sort of been around and is not necessarily the flashiest name or going to poll the most votes come the end of the season. But I just love the way he attacks the game. He plays the game in the right spirit, and it's really aggressive but really fair. I think you always know exactly what you're going to get, and he's going to give his all. And they're just invaluable traits, I think, that any coach would love for their player to have.
And your second player?
I'm going to go outside Premier Men's. I know you set the parameters, but I've got one that Nick Cox at Powerhouse. He's one of the great men of the show. He's great time. He's given me a guy by the name of Rory O'Connor. Wrote a bit of a story on him about. So Rory, for those that probably don't know, he was a hurling star in Ireland, and he took his small little town all the way to the national championship. It was like he compared it to a minnow English football team winning the FA Cup. So this guy had never played footy before this year. He's part of the Irish contingent down there, and he just runs it up and down the wing. He's about 6'2", and he's probably winning their best and fairest by that far at the moment. It's unbelievable, and I reckon we're going to see him in the midfield. He's someone you've got to go watch.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of hurling champions down at Powerhouse. They have a big Irish connection. No, they have a big Irish connection.
I don't know where he was going with that one either, but
there's always Irish players.
You recovered it well, Hugo. Yeah. Cenchy, what else have you got for us?
Moving on to the Pirates, I think it's about time we give Hugh Peacock a bit of a shout out. So his disposals since round 1 last year, he's gone 26, 32, 45, 35, 44, 38, 39, 37, 34, 49, 35, 33, 36, 47, 34, 45, 52, 34, 42, 45, which was the grand final where he was named best on. Into 2026, he started the year with 48, 38, 16, not sure what happened that week, 53, 40, and he had 47 on the weekend again. He just racks them up.
Yeah, that's unbelievable numbers.
Outrageous.
Do we have some highlights? Is he doing the KB and just up the ground, handballing? That is ridiculous.
I'll get you some highlights. We'll put some highlights up on socials.
It's a lot of kick-ins.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of highlights for you there, Senji.
On to Sam Conway on the weekend, had 78 hitouts for Uni Blacks, 27 to advantage, which is the most we've seen in William Buck Premier Men's this year. So I want to do a bit of a ruck draft. I want you guys to pick any ruckman in William Buck Premier Men's. I don't know who's going to go first. You can't have the same ruckman.
Well, because it's ruckman, we should go by height. So I'm the tallest.
All right.
So I'll go first, and then you two can sort it out.
So who's going to pick two?
I'm in trouble.
Well, for mine, because I love him as a player, but Felix Flockhart. So he's a ruckman, and we're just talking about their ruck craft. We're not talking about where they also play on the ground. But when he plays in the ruck, he's got the licence to roll forward. He takes marks and kicks goals as well. So and he's an excellent ruckman too. So he's mine.
Matty, you can have pick twos, considering you're losing the tippy.
Oh, thank you, Brayden. You're too kind. Well, I guess for me, it kind of depends if I'm building a team for the now or if I'm looking at building a team long term. I think if we've got a final to win tomorrow, have to pick a side for right now, I think I'd still go Billy Coates. He's certainly in the latter stages of his career, but has just been so dominant in the ruck for so long. We talk about the evolution of rucks and how many different types of ruckmen there are. You've got the real athletic types, and then you've got the real physical types, and some who are a combination of both. And Billy Coates has always been someone who's never been afraid to throw his weight around. He acts as an extra midfielder around the ball, so aggressive in the ruck context, but still very much alive in the game when that is done. He wins clearances, he wins contested ball, acts like a big-bodied midfielder. And if I think there's a game we've got to win tomorrow, I'd still be picking him in that spot for the ruck.
I believe he's featured in the top 10 performers every round this season, so he's having some sort of season. Yeah. Another 32 disposals on the weekend with 38 hitouts. So
outstanding,
incredible form.
You're killing me. You're just taking all my notes. It's tipping. It's unbelievable. But I'm going to go Sam Conway. I've seen this guy play VFL level. I think he played in where of his VFL premiership in 24 and made the most of an opportunity. But that many hit outs, you can get them being bigger, but just to play that role, especially in that black side that they do love it contested, he almost suits them perfectly because I think his hit zone is real in close, that in tight areas. And watching some of his highlights, to have that sort of presence around, especially when they've got Zane Cordy up front as well, to have those two big blokes dominating, he's probably something I would take right now as a top selection.
27 hitouts to advantage on the weekend. I'm going to have to contact Premier Data to see where that lands in the record books. I'm not involved in the draft, but I think I've got the steal of the draft. I'll take Will Clark. I'll take the pick.
Scotch again. Hang on.
There's something. You're onto something.
It's going to be Hugo Watch now on Cinch. I'm watching you.
Brayden, you've got more details on this. Old Brighton and Zavs to play for the Dale Tapping Cup this weekend.
Yeah, it's a great initiative by these two powerhouse clubs to honour Dale Tapping, who obviously well known in the AFL world, but his impact on the Amos community and being involved with both clubs. Unfortunately, he lost his battle with myeloma last year at the age of 59. That's still so young. So it's great to see him recognised. Paul Amy's written a great piece that's available on the Herald Sun Co Sports website. So go have a look at that. Paul's one of the great writers of local footy. And yeah, it's going to be a great initiative to launch this. There's a bit of a story behind it there. And I think the best part is this is going to be arguably the game of the season.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a terrific contest this weekend and a wonderful initiative, of course. Senchy?
And last one from me. Preston Bullants will return to Cramer Street this weekend. Their 19s, reserves and senior men's are all playing there. It's one of 3 rounds they'll play there this year, also in round 12 and 13.
Terrific. Thank you for that, Senchy. Looking forward to you asking us who the best small forward in the game is next week, and you'll take Angus Jones. And then the best defender will be Charlie Cormack. We're on to you.
I'm going to bring a question every week.
No, nice. That would be great. No, we're really looking forward to that. Thank you for that there, Senchy. We're moving on to now big bags, thanks to Sharon, and we had a couple of 10s this weekend in the big bags, which is always good to see. Hayden Boyce of Mazenod Seniors kicked 10, as did Archie Galvin of Old Melburnians under 19s. As for the rest of the weekend, Serge Mariani for Preston Bullant Seniors, he booted 9. Mai Patel for Williamstown CYMS under 19s, he also kicked 9. Charlie McIsaac, we mentioned him earlier in the program for Old Zav Seniors, booted 8. He had 2 to his name, entering time on the third term. He really got his skates on in that final quarter. Will Hart for Old Kerry under 19s. He also kicked 8. From the women's, there were 3 players who kicked 7, including Jessica Fregameni for Fitzroy Reserves, and 18 players kicked 6 goals on the weekend. So lots of big bags.
Just on Archie Galvin, I believe he had 10 at 3/4 time for Old Melburnians. Didn't kick one in the last. So.
That's disappointing. Yeah. You left a few out there. Only 10. Sorry for Archie. And then moving on to Tunwatch. Thanks to Sharon. We need a proper stinger for that one. We haven't got one. Jason hasn't given it the big rev up, and I thought we'll need to try and bring that back. So after round 6, officially a third of the way through the home and away campaign, not including finals, of course, and we have a pretty tight tussle at the top. Mitch Brown, who's led for Parkdale Vultures the whole way, he only got 1 at the weekend. He moves up to 33. He's on track to do a FEV. He's stuck on 99 is his projected tally as things stand. Will Hart with 8. We mentioned him a little earlier. He moves up to 32, so he's close to within 1. Mai Patel with 9, mentioned him as well, so he's on 31. So 2 goals separating the top 3. Patrick Karacha, he's on 26 from Therry Penola Seniors. Charlie McIsaac moves up to 25 in Premier Men's Division with his bag of 8. And speaking of McIsaacs, Will... Charlie's brother, he kicked 6 for Old Zav's Reserves. We saw that game as well there, Hugo. So the McIsaacs had a pretty big Saturday. Charlie Abbott only got 1 for St Kevin's under 19s. He's on 25, along with McIsaac, and as is Luca Delalo for MHSOB, who kicked 6. For VAFA Women's, Georgia Harris for Port Melbourne Chargers. She's on 17, didn't kick 1 at the weekend, which was very unlike Georgia. Isabella Gatesman, she kicked 4, taking her tally to 17, and Jessica Fragimeni, we mentioned her 7-goal haul takes her up to 14 for the campaign.
Now, just some clarity around parameters here. So we take finals into it, correct?
Yeah, finals count.
Of course.
Yeah.
What about representative games?
That is a good
of
question.
course.
We take
count
everything.
representative games?
Everything counts.
Everything counts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any game? Practice matches? Do we count them?
Wow.
Some of these guys will be representing the Big V, so we will have to take them in. So, because I'm just looking at my man Charlie McIsaac, and he's in good form now. We've straightened his kicking up, so you watch him have a big run at the ton this year.
No, that is absolutely one to keep an eye on the way he's going. If he can, keep his kicking boots on, which he had in that second half, Hugo. You are absolutely right. Moving on now to tips. Now, I definitely don't need to read out exactly where we each sit.
No, I think that'd be good. I think we need to know.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, as for round 6, and I can't believe this. This is surely a typo. I actually won the weekend, Brayden. I'm not sure if I've got that right or not. Well, apparently I did. I had a shocker in Prem B. But,
which you are the expert scribe of.
Well, alleged expert of. So I finished on 9 out of 14 for the weekend. I got 3 in Premier Women's, 2 in Prem B, and then 4 in Premier Men's. And Brayden, you got 3, 1, and 5, respectively. So the tally for the season, I move up now to 53. You're on 59. So you've still got a 6-tip advantage, but we will start with Premier Women's. Now, it's the showcase round, so every game is going to be live this weekend on vafa.com.au for Premier Women's. And, of course, we're going to start the first game of this one, Old Geelong and West Brunswick, 10:30, the first game at Como Park.
Well,
and
first...
Brayden, you go first.
First of all, I want to get a score check on that one. Cinch, I need you to go back through
You know
the tips
what?
to make sure he's not cheating on the
Yeah.
Jake's not here.
You know what? I do too, because I reckon I didn't do that well the weekend. Someone's left the abacus at home.
But I'm going to take the Magpies in the first game.
Hugo, we'll let you tip this weekend.
Oh, I can tip. Yeah, I'll go West Brunswick as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna tip West Brunswick. Century, is that a West Brunswick tweet?
Yeah, West Brunswick.
Alrighty, and then now this is going to put your theory to the test here, Hugo. St Kevin's against Old Scotch. We'll get to Century in just a moment with that one. St Kevin's or Old Scotch, Brayden?
I'm going to go Old Scotch. I've been influenced by Century.
You seem too close to him over there.
Yes. Definitely Old Scotch, purely because Mia Cowan's a superstar. So follow her.
No, absolutely. She is 2 p.m. at Rigetti Oval. I'm going to go Old Scotch as well.
Of course you are.
Yeah. Now you, Century.
Old Scotch.
There we go. Beautiful.
Okay.
Right on cue.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Westbourne and Fitzroy, 2 p.m. at Andrew Park. Obviously, we spoke with Chris Grant, the Westbourne coach, coming off a win earlier in the episode. Brayden?
Unfortunately, for Westbourne, Fitzroy are probably going to be too good here.
Yeah, I think so. I'd love to tip Westbourne coming off that win, but Fitzroy.
Fitzroy for me, Senchi.
I'll go Westbourne.
Okay.
Back to work.
Nice. No, we like it. We like it. And they're rounding things out at Victoria Park, Kew and Old Brighton to round out round 7 of Premier Women's.
I'm going to go the Tunners.
I think the Tunners as well for this one. I'm just tipping what he tips. He's winning, so.
You sound like Matty Donald.
Why aren't you copying Matty? You should be copying. He's the
I
expert.
know how he tips.
I'm going to tip Kew. I'm going to tip Kew for this one.
And I'll follow you in.
All right.
Oh, there we
nice.
go.
We've got a 2-2 split.
We're split.
All righty. So then we will move on to Premier B Men's Round 7. And I'll tell you what, this is a tough league to tip. Take it from me. Either that or I'm just not very good. But we will start with Old Campbell and Williamstown CYMS. It's probably a combination of the both. Brayden?
I'm going to go Willie.
Hugo?
Yeah, I think I'll go Old Camberwell to get another one on the trot.
I'm going to tip Williamstown to bounce back. Senchi?
Yeah, Williamstown for me.
De La Salle and Old Melburnians. Of course, Old Melburnians now up to second in the ladder, having won 4 of their past 5. Can they keep it going, Brayden?
No, I think Nick Highland, unless Tom takes over this week, and D-La will take control of this one.
I'm going to go D-La as well.
I'm going to go Old Melburnians. I'm backing James Burns' men and his system into to make it 5 out of 6. Senchi?
De La Salle.
Good man.
Bo Morris and Old Ivanhoe.
Old Ivanhoe are starting to click, and I think we're going to see them rise up the ladder.
I'm going to take Bowie purely because home ground advantage here. Be a hard trip from Ivanhoe down to Bowie.
Just feel like Old Ivanhoe have just started to sort of get things together in the last couple of weeks. 2 of their last 3. And had good opposition as well. Top end sort of competition that 3 weeks stretch. So I'll go Old Ivanhoe, Senchi.
Old Ivanhoe for sure.
All right, very nice. Old Carey and Collegians. Now, this was first v second a couple of weeks ago, last week. Now it's first v 5th, given how dramatic the league is. Brayden?
The Lions.
I'm actually going to tip an upset here and go Old Carey. I think Collegians, that was a really tough game on the weekend. They were a bit sore, possibly looking for a rest coming soon. So, yeah, Old Carey.
Hard to go past Collegians for me, but Cenchy?
Collegians.
All righty.
7-0.
Old Geelong and Ajax to round out round 7.
Personally, I think this is the hardest game to tip. Old Geelong are starting to come really good, and Ajax are the biggest surprise packets in the VAFA, but I reckon Lachie Buzzard's men will get the job done.
Yeah, I think Ajax as well.
I like Ajax for this one too.
Ajax for me as well.
All right, and that is Premier B men's. And then now we turn our attention to William Buck Premier Men's round 7. And now the first game, Caulfield Grammarians and Old Trinity. This is going to be on KTV, and it's going to be our match of the day on the SEN app from 1:45. Looking forward to being with you for this one, Hugo. Caulfield Grammarians against Old Trinity.
Yes, Caulfield Grammarians had a fantastic win on the weekend. A few things clicked, but I just think Old Trinity will bounce back after that loss down at Brighton Beach Oval. So Old Trinity for mine, Matty.
Yeah, I think the Tees will bounce back.
Yeah, I like the Tees. And Cenchy?
Caulfield will want this more after losing the grand final last year. So
there we go. Old Brighton and Old Zaverians. I tell you what, you're not going to get more match of the round than this. Old Brighton and Old Zaverians. VAFA.com.au streaming live from 1:55 p.m. down at Fortress Brighton. It is going to be on for young and old this game, and it is nigh on impossible to tip. But can we find a way to pick a winner here, Brayden?
I think Zabs go in there and get another win. Old Brighton's going to lose at home.
I've seen both of these sides recently, and I just think Old Zabs are probably going a little bit better at the moment. We saw Brighton a few weeks ago, but one side, I think Brighton kicked 147 on the weekend and Zabs 146. So I'll say, just to reverse that, Old Zabs by a point.
It's going to be close. I'm thinking Old Zabs are going just a little better than Old Brighton. Not that Old Brighton are going badly, but I think Old Zabs are just ticking along a little better than them at the moment. Cenchy?
Impossible to tip, pretty much.
Old Scotch.
I'll go the draw. It'll be a draw.
A draw.
Yeah.
A draw. Okay, so now you just... I reckon... Do we give him 2 tips if he predicts a draw?
Yep.
I reckon we should give him more than that, to be honest, but like
a
draw. Old Scotch and Uni Blues. Don't need to ask Cenchy for this one. VAFA.com.au again at 1:55 p.m. Brayden?
Uni Blues, but I wouldn't discount the Cardinals either.
Yeah, this is one of the games we were talking about, Matty, that has massive ramification for the rest of the season. So don't forget, Old Scotch have only had 1 win for the year so far, but their second, third and fourth quarters on the weekend were massive against St Kevin. Very good side, St Kevin's. So I will tip Old Scotch to get this one done.
I'm going to go Uni Blues, but not with a great deal of confidence because we know what Old Scotch can do. We know what Uni Blues can do.
Yes.
So there's a bit on the line for both of these two. Need I ask you, Cenchy? Don't bother. Okay. KTV 1:55 p.m. The other KTV match, St Bernard's against Old Hailery. We're heading down to the Snake Pit for this one. Who will emerge victorious here, Brayden?
I'm going to go the Snow Dogs. Alessio's going to have these blokes fired up. His beloved Bombers have sacked the coach. He's going to be fired up. He was fired up after their performance, so I reckon they're going to get the job done here.
I'll probably go against you there. I think that Old Hailery, being a young team, the Baby Bloods, as they're called, I don't think they care where they go and play footy. They just want to play footy. They've got a great system. You can take a lot out of that 1 point loss because you get a lot of learnings there. So I just think Old Hailery will get the job done out there at the Snake Pit.
Yeah, I'm going to go the Bloods here too. When these two teams played here last year was a Snow Dogs clinic in, I think it was the penultimate game of the home and away season. St Bernard's fighting to stay alive and they won very comfortably in the end, but I'm going to back the Bloods to get over the line this time around. Cenchy?
And the Snow Dogs for me.
Snow Dogs for you. All right. And then the final game, University Blacks against St Kevin's.
I'll have to go Plugger Lynch's men. They're in fine form and they're probably almost flying under the radar when we've touched on Old Brighton Zabs, but yeah, Scob are going very well.
Yeah, this is a really tough game, this one, because the Blacks' performance on the weekend wasn't the Blacks. For some reason, there was something a bit off there. And St Kevin's, they got sort of a great start, but the last 3 quarters of that game, something there, I just think I'm going to go with Pluggers boys, St Kevin's, but not with any great confidence and not with any great margin in that. But there's a lot comes out of the outcome of that game.
Yeah, it's a big game. They kind of feel like the inverse of Scotch, where they have quarters where they do really well, quarters where they're not, but they're getting the wins as opposed to Scotch who aren't picking them up. I'm going to pick St Kevin's because they're still finding ways to get wins even when they're not at their best. And I expect that Plugger Lynch will try to work really hard on that during the week. Cenchy?
St Kevin's for mine.
All right, beautiful. St Kevin's for Cenchy. And that wraps up the latest episode of For the Love of the Game. And, of course, a big thank you to Hugo Higginbotham for stepping in at the last minute. And, of course, to Brayden May, Cenchy, LACHIE MOIR, and all of our guests who joined us throughout the course of the program. Really great to have them on board. Big weekend of footy coming up, the last before the Big V bye takes place. But we'll be back here again to review the latest round of For the Love of the Game.